Everyone back tuning into today's video. We're going to do the Winter 2013-2014 Roundup video today, the first one of the season. We're going to update this as we go along through the course of the autumn. Eventually, once we get through to the 1st of December, we'll be doing the Winter 2013-2014 official forecast at GavsWeatherVids.com. But these ideas that are going to go into that winter forecast, we'll be updating them through the next few weeks. Now, before we go on, videos, we'll talk about the advertising best green keyword ads on my pages at GavsWeatherVids.com. When you roll your cursor over green keywords, they display ads. But if you click through the word, that's the key, click through the word, you go to the advertising website, you support GavsWeatherVids.com, you do that, and thanks so much for doing that. I want to say about every website that you see in this video, you can find the link to it from my links page, and also want to say you can probably see behind me that we're doing a decorating project. There's lots of dust and rubbish in the air from scraping away at the wallpaper, so I'm probably going to have to stop and have a drink of water, a bit of a cough, I've got a tickle in my vocal cords. Hope you bear with me and it doesn't spoil your enjoyment of the video too much. So let's start off first of all with the sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe. Three regions I want to look at today. The ENSO region is where we'll start, stretching from Peru to Indonesia. ENSO is important because when you've got strong La Niñas and El Niños, they do tend to have an impact on the weather in Europe. I think strong La Niñas in particular tend to favour mild zonal sort of winters. Some evidence that strong El Niños do as well, but certainly it is very much the case, I think, that strong La Niñas favour milder European winters. Well, anyway, we're at ENSO neutral at the moment. We've been at ENSO neutral for some time. We're likely to stay at ENSO neutral for the coming few months as well. Now, I did the ENSO video last week saying that I think we're going to stay at ENSO neutral. I'm going to see a bit of a change, though, because the last few months and right now, we're at the negative side of ENSO neutral. So these blue colours stretching along the date line here in the equatorial Pacific are telling us that we're on the La Niña side of neutral. We're not at a La Niña, we're not having a La Niña, but we are on the La Niña side of neutral. As we go through the winter, the autumn and into winter, I think we're likely to shift more towards the El Niño side of neutral. Doesn't really make much difference, to be honest. It just means that as we go along through the next few months, we're going to see these blue areas disappearing and probably going more towards yellow. But I don't think we're going to have an El Niño at least through the coming winter. Next thing I want to talk about is the Atlantic. Of course, I did the NAO forecast on the 1st of June, and that sort of pointed to the fact that we should have a tripole through the coming winter, because we had a tripole in May, and the sea surface temperature anomalies you get in the Atlantic in May tend to repeat as you get through to winter. Now, a tripole, remember, is where you've got a warm area here, then you have a cold area just here, and you have another warm area going through the tropical Atlantic. So that's why it's called a tripole, because you've got three distinct bands: warm, cold, warm. Now, when you've got the tripole, it does tend to favour a negative NAO, and a negative NAO tends to correspond with an increased chance of a colder than average winter. If you want to know more about the North Atlantic Oscillation, check out the NAO forecast. You can get to it from my seasonal page. But haven't got the tripole yet, but I think as we go through the autumn and into winter, if the theory holds true, which is that the sea surface temperature anomalies you get in May tend to repeat as you get through to winter, we should see the tripole re-emerge. So that's definitely going to be something we'll be keeping an eye on over the next few months to see whether that tripole comes back. We haven't got it at the moment, but it could well re-emerge as we get through to winter. Now, the main area I want to focus on for this video is this area up here in the northeastern part of the Pacific. It's very warm up here at the moment. It's quite unusual to see this massive warm water around the coast of Alaska and Canada, northwestern Canada and the northwest of the United States. This is normally a cold area in the Pacific, and most times you'll get it very cold in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies up here. So having warm water there is quite unusual. I've been checking past years when this has occurred. I can't come up with many, to be honest. There are a few in the 80s and one or two in the last few years as well, but to be honest, it's a very unusual occurrence. I've got to do more checking on this, more research. Eventually I want to present you in one of these roundup videos. I want to present you with some of the years where we had this warm water in a winter up here, but I haven't got enough information yet on that. But I've been talking with a few forecasting friends, and particularly with my good friend, the lovely Simon Keeling at the website WeatherWeb. We've been having a bit of a chat about this, what the implications of this could be if it was to last into winter. And the conclusion we came to is that this warm water here would probably correspond to a ridge of high pressure up in the northeastern Pacific and around the northwestern coast of the States. Now that's interesting because corresponding with that would be a trough in the east of the United States. We get a ridge in the northwest of the States. It tends to correspond with a trough in the east of the States. That then tends to feed back to a ridge in the Atlantic and around Greenland, which then tends to feed back to a trough around the British Isles and into northwestern Europe, and a ridge probably up towards Scandinavia and western Russia. So the trough in the east of the States is cold, and the trough around the northwest of Europe is also cold. You put the jet stream through with this to show where the jet stream would be going. Jet stream would be rising up here into the northwest of the States, I should say, the northeast of the Pacific around that ridge. Then it would dive southwards around the trough in the east of the States. It would rise up again around the ridge in the Atlantic and going up to Greenland, then coming southwards again around the British Isles and northwestern parts of Europe before rising again around the ridge sitting over Scandinavia and western Russia. So if you put the pressure belts in with that, we've got the high pressure up there, excuse me, we've got the trough down here across the eastern states. The ridge is in the mid-Atlantic and around Greenland. The trough is around the British Isles and the northwest of Europe, and again the ridge is here going out towards the west of Russia. So very much a ridge, trough, ridge pattern. And the east of the states, interestingly, is on the cold side of the trough, so very cold winter possible there with a lot of snow. Also, the British Isles and western and northwestern parts of Europe on the cold side of the jet stream. Under that trough, yep, that places us in with the chance of a colder than average winter. I've got to do a lot more research on this. This is very early days, but that's just my first sort of views about what this warm water in the northeast of the Pacific could mean were we to see it persisting into winter. And of course, that's the big unknown about this, because it's very unusual to get warm water there at any time of the year. So it may not last as we go into winter. It could well be, but as we get to winter, it will fade away, go to cold, and we won't have this warm water to worry about in the northeast of the Pacific. In any case, it's very interesting to see it, and I've got to do more research excuse me, to try and work out what the implications could be. You'll be hearing a lot more about that over the next few weeks. Now, the next thing I want to look at is the sun. The solar maximum, of course, is about with us now. With virtually solar maximum, it's going to happen any time when we see the sun's magnetic field reversing and flipping. When it happens, we'll then start to decline away into solar minimum. But will we be able to notice the difference? Because this is the image of the sun on our side of the solar disk today from the website solarham.net. And just look at this. Where are the sunspots? We've just got one. Yes, a paltry one sunspot there, which you can see just here. Other than that, it's virtually bare across the whole of the solar disk today. No sunspots at all. You would look at that and probably think that's more like the kind of thing you would expect to see in a solar minimum, and indeed you would be right. This is solar maximum is incredibly weak. It's going to be the weakest probably for at least 100 years, maybe longer. I've done videos about it over the last few months, so you know about this, of course. The weak solar maximum of solar cycle 24. Incredibly weak cycle, and when you've got this weak solar activity, it corresponds to an increased chance of blocking. Now, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it's like loading the dice in favour of blocking. Where those blocks sit are important, of course, because if you're on the cold side of a block, then you very often bring cold air out of the Arctic, bleeding it out of the Arctic and sending it into the mid-latitudes. It doesn't guarantee that you'll be on the cold side of the block, but it just guarantees, or it just increases the risk of blocking. And I would expect to see this persisting through the rest of the autumn, to be honest. We may see a ramp up in solar activity, but in any case, it's going to be a really weak solar maximum, this one. And I expect to see weak solar activity persisting into the winter. That's important, of course, because even if we have a mildish sort of winter, it does imply that there should be periods of blocking. So even in a milder winter, you would expect with this that we'll get some spells of cold weather at times. But we'll be keeping an eye on the solar activity over the next few weeks. But I wouldn't expect any great changes. To be honest, I think we're in for a very weak solar maximum. In fact, I know we're in for a very weak solar maximum. The next thing I'll look at is the hurricane activity. Things are beginning to get going now. We've got 2 hurricanes in the Atlantic, or we've had 2 hurricanes. We've got them on the go, basically. They've just generated in the last week. We've had a total of 10 depressions and 9 storms. It's been a very, very slow start to this hurricane season, but things are beginning to get going now in the northern Atlantic. Of course, hurricane activity is important because when you get very strong hurricane activity, a lot of hurricanes, the idea of a hurricane is that basically they're dumping hot air from the tropics into the Arctic. When you get a lot of hot air being dumped into the Arctic, it tends to correspond with an increased chance of blocking through the course of the winter. So the fact that we had a very slow start to this hurricane season probably implies that we're not going to have a big season this year. We may get a big ramp up through the rest of September and into October, but I would suspect that we'll have a weaker hurricane season than for some time. We'll keep an eye on it though and see how things start to develop. I want to have a look at the sea ice next, the sea ice extent in the Arctic. This melt season is currently on a par with 2009 and 2010. That's where we are now, the black line. So we're on a par with the blue and the sort of mauve line, and that's 2009 and 2010. It hasn't been a catastrophic melt season, thankfully, this year. We haven't got down to the depths of 2012, which is the all-time lowest. But having said that, let's not get carried away, because we're not up with 2006, which was the last sort of decent melt season, and that's the line just there. That is 06 up there, and we're some way below 2006. So we're still on a par with 2009, 2010. And the idea behind this is that the more sort of melting that you get through the course of the summer and into the first part of the autumn, the more melting you get, it tends to favour an increased chance of blocking. So the fact that we haven't gone down to the depths of 2012, something to be thankful for, but we are on a par with 2009, 2010. Very block winter, so I wouldn't expect this really to impact us in any measurable way. We could get a lot of blocking still this winter, as we did in 2009 and 2010. The Siberian snow cover is something else I like to look at through the course of the autumn. We've got some Siberian snow cover actually going on there in the central part of Russia. Also little splodges around here. I haven't got anything huge, I haven't got any huge amounts of snow just yet, but we have sort of got snow spattered across parts of the Siberian plain. Of course, up here is where we've got the ice melting. That's the ice melting, or the ice that's left actually. That yellow area where we've got the blue area there, that's where the ice melted. All that will fill in with ice over the next few weeks and months. But this Siberian snow cover is quite interesting because we're doing better than we was this time last year. It's a very slow start to the snow cover season last year across Siberia. It took a long while to get going, but it was one of the most important factors for last winter and for the winter forecast that I did last year. So just have a quick look at what happened last year, see the kind of thing we'll be looking for this year. This is how we started on the 1st of October. If anything, it was a little bit below average in terms of the Siberian snow cover on the 1st of October 2012. As we run through this, what you're going to see is that eventually we're going to fill the Siberian plain up with snow, or largely fill it up. But on the 11th of October, still not a lot going on, probably about where we should be, to be honest. As we go through to the 16th, again, a bit of an increase, but nothing too dramatic. But it's really from around the 20th onwards that things are going to accelerate dramatically. So this is how we go into the 21st of October. Again, it's probably about where we should be, mainly even a little bit below where we should have been. But then as we get through the 26th, look at that, had a huge increase over several thousand miles of snow cover has appeared. And as we go through to the 31st, well, look at that. Absolutely massive increase takes place from the 26th to the 31st of October. The whole of Scandinavia virtually covered in snow, even stretching into the East Europe. I'll go back again. That's where we was on the 26th of October. Look how quickly the snow advanced to the 31st. And that was very important. That rapid increase in snow cover through October was very, very important, I think, in laying the groundwork for the Siberian high and starting to lay the groundwork for the cold winter that was to come. We're going to be looking at this very closely over the next couple of months to see how quickly that snow cover advances across the Siberian plain. If we see something like this through October, rapid build-up, it very much will favour the chance of a colder than average winter. But conversely, if we see a very slow build-up of snow cover and we haven't got much even going into November, then we'll start to have to we'll begin to have to start thinking about that, but we may be favouring a mild winter. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly that snow cover advances across the Siberian plain. Finally, we want to have a look at the autumn weather patterns so far. Of course, we're only up to the 12th of September. This is from Philip Eden's website, climateuk.com. It's the Central England temperature, and it's showing that we're around where we should be. Actually, we're at 14.1, or we was on the 12th of September. We may have dipped below that a little bit now, but it's about where we should be in terms of the 61 to 90 average, but below average in terms of the 81 to 2010 average, which I think is what Philip Eden uses. In terms of rainfall, it's a little bit below average, and in terms of sunshine, a little bit above average or near normal. Actually, that rainfall figure will have increased now because we had a very wet day on, excuse me, on the 13th of October. So that would have increased quite a bit. But in terms of September, I think we are looking at a relatively cool month, to be honest, and rainfall possibly coming up close to average, maybe even a little bit above average now. Looking like quite an unsettled month. And the idea behind the autumn weather patterns is that if you get a cool and wet September, particularly if it's followed by a warm and dry October and a wet November, it can sometimes, a lot of controversy about it, but it can sometimes favour a colder than average winter. But I say very controversial. That will keep an eye on the autumn patterns anyway as they develop over the next few weeks. So that's it. That's the first roundup done for today. And to be honest, a lot of the things we're looking at seem to be very early days, but seem to be favouring the chance of a colder than average winter. Of course, that's the way many of the seasonal models are going. And talking of the seasonal models, we're going to be looking at them next week. I think it'll be around the 21st or 22nd of September next week. So I think we should have all the seasonal models in. So next Sunday, I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to do the first winter 2013-2014 seasonal model roundup. That's going to be really interesting to see what they're showing. So come back for that next Sunday. But in summary, the first winter roundup video is pointing towards the fact that everything is on course. We're about where we should be. The warm water in the north east of the Pacific is the main talking point at the moment. Very unusual to see it. Could, if it lasts into winter, could correspond to the chance of a cold and average winter for the east of the States and the northwest of America, but I've got to do a lot more research on it, and I'll be presenting more facts and information about that, hopefully over the next few weeks and months. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.